Students. This is intercultural communication at Washtenaw Community College, and my name is Myron Covington, and I will be narrating the slide portion for you for looking at our dates for the March of 9th, not the 9th of March, as well as the 16th of March. We are looking at, and our topic of discussion for this week is what is family, exploring diverse family types. So let's go ahead and take a look. This is located on Blackboard for you too as well. This is what we use in terms of supplemental material, but Candace Thomas Maddox and Nicole Blau do a fantastic job. This is COM 200 that we have here at Washtenaw. If you are ever interested, normally we run it online year-round, and we also run it face-to-face in the fall typically. And so feel free to follow along. These videos I try to keep right around 15 minutes. You can watch it on your phone. These are all posted for your leisure and for academic purposes as well. So thank you so much for tuning in. Okay. So let's take a look at what is a family. We saw the Dimension of film on last week. Very compelling watching Crash, and thank you to those who were there. For those who were not there, hopefully the video or movie that you did see should be able to be supplemented as well. So let's first define what a family is, okay? And there's a lot of research out there that talks about, well, what is a family? What does that mean? Well, our definition of family is a group of persons with at least two interdependent parties who have a mutual bond, they share a common history, and envision a future together. So think about more specifically a mutual bond. That mutual bond could be a faith or religion. That could be a parent. It's the same thing with the shared common history. So you could be married to someone and you got unfortunately divorced. Okay, although you all may be in a good relationship or a bad relationship, you have two kids, you built a house, you all had a savings in a 401, you have a shared common history together. Maybe you dated in high school, you went to prom together, then you got married, and then unfortunately 30 years later you got divorced. You still have that common history. And ladies and gentlemen, we can't erase the history, whether it was positive or negative. And again, I want to be sensitive there. And then lastly, do you envision a future together? So more specifically, what does your future together look like? Okay. Are you all planning to build a brand new house? Do you all want more children? Are you going to retire soon? So those are what we look at in terms of definition and defining what the family is. The next conceptual foundation is communication in terms of transactional. Remember, we talked about linear, which is one way, so speaker listener, and transactional is more interdependent amongst each other. So let's look at characteristics used to define what the family is. Okay, first you have LTCs, or long-term commitments. These families have a sense of obligation to one another over an extended period of time. So when you look at your long-term commitment within the family, what is that sense of obligation? Is the obligation that when each individual gets paid, we put half in the pot and half into savings? Okay, is that long-term commitment that you're going to stay in your house with your parents until you graduate college? Okay, those are what we call long-term commitments. The second aspect is relations created through biology, law, or affection. So biology, okay, could essentially be genetic. You share the same mother and father, and families can be a biological connections, legal connections. So through marriage, adoption, or guardian. More specifically, my brother-in-law have gotten closer over the years, if you will, and so although we're not brothers, I consider him to be a brother, which that comes from the legal connection through my wife. This also happens for some of us who have adopted, as well as if you're in a guardian. Okay, and so sometimes people may feel, oh my goodness, well, those aren't my children, but I'm the foster parent. These relations can be created through law or affection, or simply affectionate connections. Godparents referring to a close family friend or Uncle Jim. Some of you all out here, especially a lot of us, we tend to have a female friend, and we'll say, hey, that's my sister. Well, it's really not your sister, but you've been, maybe you guys were childhood friends since you were 2 years old. That's what we call affectional relations, okay? The third aspect is enmeshed in the family unit, and this is where you have a dependence on one another. So right now I am learning, and to all you stay-at-home moms there, Mr. Cove, I am learning that, and prior to the whole coronavirus and everything, I knew this job was very, very difficult. But my goodness, 3 mouths to feed, making breakfast, lunch, you're trying to get your coffee, someone hit somebody. There's a dependence on one another. So I have an affinity to the ladies and gentlemen out there. If you are a stay at home mom or dad, where there's a dependence on one another. One thing in our relationship is that my wife has sacrificed her career to be a part-time mom. Well, she's a full-time mom, but part-time with her career. She was soaring pretty well with her career, was doing very, very well, but she has sacrificed. And as a husband, I really appreciate that. And so I have a dependence on her to keep the family in order. My wife is quite independent, but she depends on me to work. I tried to flip it and say, hey, if I could be the stay-at-home dad and teach at night. Mrs. Cove was having none of that. And so we depend upon each other, and I think that works really well. So think about your family enmeshment. How does that work for you? Institutionalization. This can be legal or institutional, and others can view us as a family based on cultural or social standards. So more specifically, when you look at certain cultures, some cultures get married really early, or they arrange those marriages, and some of us don't fall into that format, if you will. So let's look at general family types. You want to star this slide and the subsequent slides to come. Let's take a look at the target and access dimension, okay? The target dimension deals with families' goals for effect, power, and meaning. All of our families have different types of power, meaning that control the climate in which we're in. We have the access dimension, which is a family's use of time, energy, and their needs for space. All of us need our own unique space. I know in our house, we just upgraded and got a larger house, and there's plenty of room for everyone to have their own unique corner. But some of us, we value our personal time. We want to watch college football all day. We want to watch the Real Housewives of Atlanta, whoever, right? So some of us have an enormous amount of access, and some of us don't need that. So let's take a look at the family types, okay? The first type is close families. When we look at close families, these are predictable families that have rigid boundaries. Okay, when you look at this, mom or dad comes home at work at 5 p.m. or 6 o'clock, they cook dinner, they shower, they go to bed. How many of you all can think of someone who has a predictable, rigid boundaries? We also know that sometimes you may not be able to ask mom or dad or your significant other certain questions. A rigid boundary could be, hey, how much money do we have in our account? That may be open for some of us, but very, very closed for some of us, okay? The second type of family type is open families. These families are very, very flexible, and they're open for change. Think about this. Which kind of family do you come from? When in an open family, these families are very flexible. I grew up in a family, and I'm still a grown man. And Mr. and Mrs. Covington Sr., literally, as a grown man, I had a curfew. Some of you all may be laughing at me right now, okay? And the curfew was 3 o'clock. And my parents used to joke, if you're out past 3 o'clock, there's a Hilton, a Super 8, Motel 6, but you ain't coming in the house, right? At all hours of the night. But some of your parents, hon, whatever you want, you can stay out as late as you want. Well, some families are open to that. That's a flexible and an open to change family. And then we also have random families, which are quite chaotic and unpredictable. Think about your family. Are you all an impromptu family? Is it chaos? And I don't want you to think that chaotic is necessarily bad, okay? But, think about chaos. We can all think of having a neighbor or a friend who had a random or chaotic or unpredictable family. All three of these can fall within our own families as well. So let's look at marital relationship types. We have traditionals, independents, and separates. Traditionals, when we look at marital relationship types, traditionals have an emphasis on the stability and routine. So there's a routine, not to say these people are sticky note type, but there's stability. There's an interdependent, and they do not avoid conflict, but they are not assertive in arguments. So traditionals have an emphasis is on stability and routine. They want to be comfortable, okay? And there's an interdependent, and they do not avoid conflict. Independent marital relationship types have an emphasis on individual freedom and autonomy. So, more specifically, if you're dating someone, you may not bring your significant other out to play pool or play euchre or poker or spades or go to the casino because you all have your freedom and autonomy, okay? Even though they have distinct lives, they enjoy spending time together. And then you have separates. There is an emphasis on freedom, psychological and physical distance, and they maintain some traditional characteristics of marriages. So today, do you all know what the biggest number one request now going on? And for those of you all who are realtors out there, you can complement this, is that we are getting his and her master suites. Well, things are changing. You could say, "Oh my God, why? If you're married, why would you sleep separately?" Things are changing significantly. It could be a health related. Okay, there's a myriad of reasons why, but oftentimes people look at those as immediate indicators of something going bad, and that's not necessarily the case. Okay. So let's look at family structures. You have family of origin, nuclear, extended, single parent, childless, step families, adoptive, foster care, and gay and lesbian. So when we look at family structures, we have family of origin. We don't really need to worry about that one for the purposes of the material today, but nuclear, think of your traditional nuclear family. This could be the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. This could be Home Improvement. The nuclear family, or Home Alone. The nuclear family typically has a husband, it has a wife, and 2.5 kids, perhaps a dog, and everything is kind of great. So we kind of see it by that definition. We have extended family structures too as well, which go above and beyond. This could be, cousins, aunts, and uncles. Single parent. Oftentimes, single parent gets a bad rap or a negative connotation or whatnot, because what happens is a single parent. You could be a single parent for a lot of things. Unfortunately, during World War II, a lot of women were single moms. So oftentimes we think it's by choice. Where hey, I've got my baby daddy or whoever. No. Single parent could happen for multiple reasons. Maybe that individual did have a child when they were younger or weren't married, okay? But this could happen by health too as well. So there's a lot of reasons why we can have single parent. I want to focus on the childless because some of us out here have tried for years to have children, and unfortunately, we haven't been able to do that, and so. Some of us choose not to have children. I have students, you remember when you all did the Kahoot, some people don't want to have kids. They want to live their best life is kind of the mantra today. And so some people judge, though, depending on culturally the region, why don't you have a kid, et cetera. And that can create stress in the family. We also have step families with people getting married in their late 50s, early 60s, more than before. You do have step parents that you have to deal with. We have adoptive too as well, foster care. And then the emergence now with gay and lesbian family structures too as well. So you will see all types of family structures in your new neighborhood wherever you choose to live. No matter if you live in the South, the Northeast, the West, or the Midwest, you'll see these family structures. So let's look at family cohesion. Cohesion is defined by the degree of closeness amongst family members, and you have 4 dimensions of cohesion in families. The first is disengaged families. These are families that have very low levels of cohesion. They have open boundaries to the outside of the family, and they spend more time with others than together. So this is what we call a disengaged family. The second one is called separated families. These are where you have low to moderate levels of cohesion, low levels of independence, as a family, but may have a shared friends connections outside of the family. Separated families are semi-open boundaries to those outside of the family. The third one is connective families. These are moderate to high levels of cohesion. Plans to spend time with non-family members are often discussed with family members. And then enmeshed families. These are where you have high levels of cohesion, high dependence on family members, and close boundaries to those outside of the family. Okay? That will conclude our video today for defining what a family is and diverse family types. I hope that you found this information to be beneficial, whether you are just popping in, whether you see this online. I hope that you enjoyed the material today. Stay tuned next week for an additional video as I continue to update. This is for Intercultural Communication, COM 225 at Washtenaw Community College. Have a good one. Thank you.